You know, if you didn't bring your bag, you bought another plastic bag, and your house is full of plastic bags now, you know, and they're like, we'll be gone and they'll be still in the house, like, you know.
There's lots of packaging involved, and fair enough, lots of places like Aldi and Lidl and Dunnes Stores and Tesco's have this option where you can take their plastic and they can dump it in there. But it doesn't matter where you dump your plastic, it's still plastic, it's still there. It has to go somewhere.
One of the biggest rip-offs to me, bottled water. I mean, if you had told me growing up as a child you would have to buy water in a bottle, I would be saying, are you off your rocker?
We are Beta and Olga. We live in Crumlin in Dublin 12, a suburb of the city. It's a densely populated area of around 7,000 homes built by Dublin City Council in early 1940s. We met on the street during one of our regular Saturday litter picks. Our fight with litter and perhaps obsession with its constant presence started conversations about the waste we all produce and the ways we're dealing with it. Or not. If we're not able to manage it in our small urban community, how are we going to solve the waste issue on a global scale? We are all responsible for the state of our environment, and we all need to do better. But how are we supposed to change our disposable lifestyles in a system that does not support better choices?
So this is our giant bag. We're going to put it up here in Crumlin village, and we're going to start filling it with street litter. It holds around 1,000 litres, and we want to find out how long it's going to take for us to fill it. I reckon it's going to take about 50 bags.
Yeah. I'm going to say 80 bags, 5 weeks.
Okay.
When I see all the waste on the streets of Crumlin, it kind of really affects my mood. So I think it's a kind of mental health issue, really.
I guess seeing litter makes me feel somewhat sad, a little traumatised, a little dismayed about people's lack of consideration for a shared environment.
I don't think anything can really be properly done without the help of the council.
I think it's very difficult for the council to provide sufficient support. I mean, obviously they have limited resources, limited staff, etc. So they can go around and they can clean up, but they can't be doing it 24/7. So the reality is it's up to the public. I think education, I think an awful lot of it is actually probably being done by younger people. I think parents need to actually explain to their children this is your environment and it's up to you to keep it and manage it.
I hate that. But there's a lot of kids think because it's not my job, it's someone else cleaning up for me.
Ever since I was a child, when I had litter, right, I put it in my pockets. God help if I got knocked down. My mother always said, always wear clean underwear in case you get knocked down, right? But me, if I ended up what's called an A&E, they'd be going through my pockets looking for an A&E, and they'll be finding what's about 2 or 3 weeks worth of rubbish in my pockets.
You need to learn how to have a bit of respect for the community, because you wouldn't do it in your own house.
So if we look at the waste hierarchy, which is a hierarchy that most European cities follow for waste management, you have prevention at the top, then reduction, and obviously both of those, education is a huge part of that.
The young people that I would work with in schools or in the football club would have the attitude, especially young men, that littering is okay. So like when they're doing climate action projects, the young boys would tend to not be more interested because they're not encouraged enough to be involved in that. And then when they're not involved in community projects around the area, I suppose they're massively disconnected.
I think Crumlin's probably the same as anywhere else. Ireland's got a litter problem, the world's got a litter problem. I think we've got to cut the source of it, which is the amount of wrapping and convenience and massive investment, let's say, in immediately compostable plastics, and an outright ban on single-use plastic. There's no time to mess around. There's no time for small interventions. You need huge, meaningful interventions.
So do you want to pick a bag and see what's in it?
Yeah, let's do it.
So if you look at this much plastic bottles, this much cans, we should be able to return them because they're valuable.
Yeah, because in European countries they have deposit return schemes, which means you can get money back for your water bottles and your cans.
Well, why don't we have them here?
I don't know. We were promised them, but we don't have them yet.
Some of the big supermarkets have already put in reverse vending machines so that you can put back your empty plastic bottle or can and get some money back. I know there are some in Sallynoggin, some in Cork, some in Naas. So until about November of 2023, we'll cover the whole country with those.
We were waiting for these very long time. What was the delay?
Well, it takes a long time to cover the whole country. Is there nowhere in Crumlin yet that has a machine to take them back?
We don't even know about any.
Yeah, you should talk to Aldi or Lidl or Dunn's or Tesco and ask them.
Unfortunately, in Ireland, the industry lobbied very, very hard against deposit return schemes and successfully created a delay on that. And if the public want this, and politicians generally act in the public interest and they like to do popular things, why haven't they done it? And that goes back to the fact that industry have the ear of government and we're lobbying really, really hard to resist these schemes coming in because they have the system that they have and they don't want change because for them, change, involves effort and work.
The commonly accepted narrative is that a lot of the effort and work around climate action should be done by us, the citizen. And one of the main things we should all do better is recycle. But does recycling really help, or is it a smokescreen for larger systematic issues?
So we're told to recycle as much as we possibly can. So we're going to look at your bin, if you don't mind, and we're going to analyse and maybe have a chat about what should be in there and what should not be in there, and maybe what we should be doing better.
So, what's here? Meat tray.
Okay.
Cover for water bottles.
So up until recently, you couldn't recycle soft plastics in Ireland, and now they're saying that you can. And also, a lot of the packaging still says that it's not yet recycled. So should we be putting this in the bin or not? And where does it actually go?
Remember that what we're basically doing in Ireland is resorting your green bin, the contents, into individual waste streams so that it can be packaged up and sent on to somebody else who is going to recycle it afterwards. The material that we are unable to recycle at the moment is the likes of the netting, the toothpaste, the soft films are all going to be basically separated out, and these are going to be sent to another processing facility. So after we process the material that is accepted from your household, we basically market it. It goes to a number of facilities, and they can be in Ireland, they can be in Europe, and some can be as far as Asia. It depends on who's looking for the material at the time. So it's a global commodity, and it's transferred across the whole world.
So this is a concept that we really struggle with when it comes to our single-use plastic waste, because we can see here actually globally only about 10% of plastic actually gets recycled. And even at that, it can only be recycled approximately once. Like, that's a really low rate of recyclability.
So if this is the case, that means that what we're doing with recycling our single-use plastic is that we are taking it from here and transporting it to some other place in the world. And for that reason, it would only make sense to ditch the single-use plastic altogether and stop bringing it into your home.
But everything comes packed in plastic. Bananas in a plastic bag, they're in a wrapper already. Why are they putting plastic bags on bananas? You know, it used to be weighed at the till. Now they don't. Oranges in a plastic bag. Why? Apples in a plastic bag. The overuse of plastic has become crazy.
You'd have a shopping bag, like an old one, for the vegetables, because they'd weigh the potatoes and then just empty them into the bag, and the carrots.
Do you like shopping in the big supermarkets?
My daughter does my shopping in Dublin. I don't shop now.
Because you can't afford to go to the local shop and shop in. They say shop local, but you can't afford to buy stuff in it. Like you pick up a bottle of sauce and it's $1.50 in Dunn's or Tesco, and you go down to the local shop and it's €3 or $3.50. Like you
can't shop local. It's all right if you were just buying bread and milk, and even that's
compared to go down to
that's dearer than the supermarkets, like, you know.
But that's she's buying a big one,
you know.
Okay, so Badger, we're going to do a test, and we're going to do a standard food shop in a conventional supermarket. And then we're going to drive to the Green Door Market, which is a farmer's market, a loose veg market, and we're going to do the same shop there.
Yes, and we are actually putting to the test to find out if shopping in the loose vegetable market is really more expensive, and we'll also compare then how much plastic we'll bring home.
So quite frequently supermarkets will put quite a lot of pressure on a producer to cut the cost of their production. So they want to give the minimum possible price to the farmer for the produce. And if that happens, that then translates into cost cutting out on the farm. You also have the inputs of artificial fertilizers. You have all these artificial pesticides and herbicides that are applied to the plants. When you apply that, you're cutting out labour and you're also hurting the environment. So there's another cost hidden inside in that. There is a cost to packaging, absolutely, but the cost again, I suppose, isn't always realised at the till and supermarket. They're very fond of packaging a lot of their fresh produce in plastic.
Recycling is a small piece of the jigsaw. So it's just not ever going to be enough that you put things in the right bin and that you recycle things, and that's going to be enough for climate action. Like, the basic thing we have to do is to stop burning fossil fuels. Stop this idea that you need a litre of milk, you burn a litre of diesel to get to the shop to get it.
Okay, so the next stop is probably the only food market that we have in Crumlin or in Dublin 12, and it's the Green Door Market. And what we're going to do there
is the same shop.
Exactly. Do you have the list?
I do. Do you have directions?
No, yes. You have to, so because you don't have anything on your doorstep here, and especially in this part of Crumlin, so you always have to drive.
We were in Newmarket Square. We had to move because the lease was up and the landlord wasn't willing to give us a new lease. And also they were redeveloping Newmarket Square. There's a lot of hotels gone in there and high-rise buildings. So it was very devastating for us. Yeah. I don't understand it. You know, in Paris, in Berlin, in Budapest, you know, even poor countries have beautiful markets in their cities. It's like it's not important to the powers that be, and so you just have to take it into your own hands and do it yourself. I think we have served people really well. I think at the height of my, say in the middle of COVID, when we were doing really well, if you added up all of the food that I was selling to all of the people, it was coming to nearly 900,000 meals a year. It's amazing how many people you can affect, even though it's only little old me with, you know, Nerney Farm. And it's really good food, and the price is good, and we're supporting small local farmers as much as possible.
Okay.
We have our shopping here. So this is the little shopping, this is the food market. Yeah, the green door market. So let's put it all.
Okay.
This is my pile of packaging. What's yours?
Okay, my pile. So in my pile there is 3 paper bags. There is plastic from the lettuce, but actually we could have bought a lettuce that didn't have plastic, but we're trying to be, you know, fair. And I have a piece of paper from the cheese. And obviously with the meat, there's a small bit of like butcher's white plastic on that, but you know, I'm sure you could bring your own because you're buying it off him, so I'm sure you could bring your own.
Yeah.
So
which you can't do with my meat because you can't just take it out of the packaging in the shop. Not that I would want to do that.
No.
But it is quite a big and
so
very like sturdy plastic tray.
So you have a whole tray.
And I have plastic 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 plastic bags. Now let's compare the prices.
Yep.
You have the receipts.
I do.
Let's put up. So, how much did we spend?
Okay, for the full shop, 34.12, and the green door market. So 40.30.
Okay.
So the price difference is not that massive, but it does add up when you're trying to feed a bigger family.
Yeah, but I would be happy to pay more for good quality local food. I just don't have time to drive there every week, and their opening hours don't suit me. So my options are very limited, and for that reason, Lidl is inevitable for me. But I am getting all this with my shopping, and I don't want to get it. It's not my choice. So who can influence how much packaging are we bringing home? To put it simply, businesses have to pay fees for packaging they place on the Irish market. A membership organisation, Repack, is using some of those fees to pay for our household recycling bin.
Plastic isn't a bad thing. It's very important from the management of food. For instance, today it is estimated that we're generating close on 900,000 tonnes of food waste.
But I think, you know, the supermarkets need to look at what they're dumping as well, and maybe bring in the law the way France did. They're not allowed to dump food. It has to be donated to a food bank.
Well, I would contend that we're acting now, maybe not as fast as people would like, but first and foremost, action comes from legislative change.
Ireland has just passed its legislation back in July, but it's so weak compared to what France is doing. So France has mandated supermarkets that are over a certain size have to give 20% of their floor space to refillable. So you can refill your rice, your beans, all of those dry products, the same with cleaning products. You know, if France can do it, then it's not against EU rules, so there's no excuse for the government not to do it.
I think there are plenty of choices out there. You can go to a different store, if you want to take that as an example, where you won't find the apples wrapped in plastic.
So we have already shown how far do we need to travel if we want to go to Lou's vegetable market. I wanted to have a look at Crumlin, at the map of Crumlin, and see what are our options, really, all the options and the choice that everybody is speaking about. So we have 2 shopping centres here. One approximately here, Ashleaf, and another one is there, the Sun Drive, Super Value, and we are here. This location is particularly interesting, Crumlin Shopping Centre. Don't forget, this is an area of 7,000 households.
Yeah, so this has been left to deteriorate for the last, I think it's 10 to 15 years. And it's really perfectly located. And it's an amazing landscape and opportunity for redevelopment. But it's privately owned. It's owned by Dunn Stores. And the only thing they keep open is like a really small grocery store in the main area. But it has amazing potential to be everything we need it to be. And maybe if they were open to sustainable alternatives, we might not have to drive that far for a zero-waste food shop.
And Dunn Stores, I contacted them.
What did they say?
Nothing, no response. They don't talk to us, public, community, so we don't know.
The legislation is there. I think it's the lack of implementation. And I think there's a cultural issue that local authorities in Ireland pay too much heed to the rights of private property owners. This kind of vacancy and dereliction is damaging in a whole range of ways to the community, to the common good. And that's why we have the Derelict Sites Act. You know, sometimes we think of antisocial behaviour as young fellas drinking in a public park and shouting and stuff like that. But antisocial behaviour is also site owners who leave their sites derelict. And they live happily in some leafy suburb away from it all and suffer none of the damage that they're causing to the local community and neighbourhood.
I was there the day the Crumlin shopping centre opened. Standing in the crowd, a gay Byrne appeared in the middle of this throng to officially open the Crumlin shopping centre. The place was jammed. There were people everywhere. It was just an amazing day. It was like a mini village. It had a lot of small shops, but there were things for children. There were things for adults, all the family. It's hard to pinpoint the exact current decline, and I think it is mid-2000s. So we had another shopping centre open up at Crumlin Cross. But I think too, the demographic of the area really changed. There are very, very few new housing built in the general area, and that meant that young people didn't stay. Also, I think there were subtle changes with our bus routes. You seem to have less buses going by the shopping centre again, which meant you needed a car.
There's not a lot that's accessible in Crumlin without a car, or at least people feel that way. If you're stuck going to, a large retailer, buying your things in plastic, on the one hand, you're getting the message from the media, this is bad consumer behaviour and you shouldn't be doing this. But on the other hand, you don't actually have realistically any choices.
And the school is down that way. You'd shop on the way home after leaving them in school, and you'd get everything you wanted in all the variety of shops that we had. We'd one specialising in vegetables. We'd one fish Wednesday and Friday, that kind of way. And we had a bakery.
Yeah,
they're all gone. They're all gone.
It's an October day in Dublin and we're back to our giant bag. It only took us 3 weeks to fill it with 1,000 litres of street litter. We couldn't keep the waste for such a long time, so we decided to demonstrate the volume by filling it with the most available item Ireland has to offer: single-use plastic. According to statistics, Ireland is one of the largest consumers of single-use plastic in Europe. Our balloons, like other similar items, will end up in our landfills and waterways.
It's like an avalanche, we're picking up litter every week, but when you think that we have to fill that bag every 3 weeks just with litter, you have to turn off the tap.
It's basically, we're running in circles here. We're asked to do better for the environment, but we can't achieve that. And we're persuaded that recycling is the answer.
Recycling isn't necessarily the solution that we're told it is. We're just moving the recycling around the globe, and it's not actually being recycled into items. What we need to do is stop producing the single-use plastic, the unnecessary packaging to begin with.
To me, the most important realization is that the system needs to change.
You're going against a lot of vested interests who want to maintain the model of buy and throw away, and they love to focus it all back on the individual and shaming and making you feel guilty that the world is falling apart and it's all your fault as an individual, and if you don't change the way you live. It's kind of sinister in a way that it's making you feel guilty for something that really is beyond your control, because you've been just trapped into this system of buy, and throw everything away.
Is it all on the citizen? Of course it isn't. Power in government is really meaningful. You can do things. But everyone's afraid about how are they going to be re-elected and how is this going to play to the gallery. But we're in a radical time, but we're not being radical about the things that matter.
The government follow the crowd. By the time you have a crowd, like, it's too late. The bus has gone, the flight has gone, you know. The environment is devastated. You must individually take responsibility and take the action and choose to go shopping where there's no plastic or no packaging. We must all choose this. And we all are so powerful when we all make a little bit of an effort.